year was 1880, a time when the lighthouse stood as a solitary sentinel against the vast, tempestuous Atlantic. My husband was the keeper of the St. Simon's Island Lighthouse, a position that came with its own set of fears and legends. But on that fateful night, I found myself alone, left to tend to the light while he attended to business on the mainland. The evening was dark, with a heavy fog rolling in from the sea, smothering the light and the soul alike. I made my way up the winding stairs, each creak of the wooden steps echoing through the tower, the sound mingling with the distant crash of waves against the rocks below. As I reached the lantern room, my heart sank. The lighting mechanism was jammed, and I, with my limited knowledge, was helpless. Desperation clawed at me as I fumbled with the gears and levers. I could almost hear the mocking whispers of the sea, taunting me with the inevitability of disaster. If the light did not function, ships would be lost, lives would be taken by the unforgiving waters. In my despair, I did something that defied logic and sanity. I remembered the stories, the hushed conversations about the ghost of Frederick Osborne, the former keeper who had met a tragic end at the hands of his assistant, John Stevens. They said his spirit never left the lighthouse, bound to the place where he had faithfully served. With a shiver of fear and hope mingling within me, I called out into the darkness, "Frederick Osborne, if you are here, I need your help. Please, help me." For a moment there was nothing but silence, the oppressive weight of the fog pressing in on me. Then I felt it, a chill that seeped into my bones, colder than the night air. The room seemed to grow darker, the shadows deeper, and from those shadows a form began to take shape. There he was, Frederick Osborne, just as the stories described. His eyes were hollow, yet they seemed to bore into my soul. His presence was both terrifying and strangely comforting, as if I knew he meant no harm, only to fulfill his duty. Without a word, he moved to the machinery. His hands, ethereal and insubstantial, passed through the gears, and yet the mechanism began to turn. The light flickered, then shone brightly, piercing through the fog like a beacon of hope. The last thing I saw before everything went black was Osborne's spectral figure, silently working, ensuring that the lighthouse fulfilled its purpose. I fainted, overwhelmed by the fear and the unreal sight before me. When I regained consciousness, the room was empty, but the light was functioning perfectly. The fog had begun to lift, revealing the calm sea beyond. I knew then that the stories were true. Frederick Osborne's spirit remained, watching over his lighthouse, protecting it even in death. In the years that followed, others claimed to have seen him, heard his footsteps echoing through the tower when no one else was around. The legend of Frederick Osborne grew, a ghostly guardian bound to the lighthouse for eternity. And as for me, I never spoke of that night, but I often felt a chill in the air, a fleeting glimpse of a shadow that was not my own. Frederick Osborne had answered my call, and in doing so had forever intertwined our fates with the haunting legacy of the St. Simon's Island Lighthouse.